Hashem, happy to be here with the dedicated few that show up on the Goy holiday of Independence Day, 4th of July. You know, sometimes you get so preoccupied with Torah, Zikwe Rabim, Am Yisrael, you forget about the world that's around you. So honestly, I didn't even realize it was 4th of July until about 5 minutes before I got here. And someone told me they're not coming because it's 4th of July. So I said, I don't know, Hashem works on 4th of July, so why are we not working? We are supposed to and commanded to learn Torah all the time. Even more so at times like this, number one, because this is not our holiday. This is not to say that we're not grateful to Hashem for providing us a place to live where we have freedom of speech and freedom of religion to some extent, and the ability to succeed even in the exile. But yet we're always reminded that this is still not salvation. We're always reminded this is still not the days of greatness, the days of freedom, the days that we've been waiting for over 2,000 years. And the things that remind us that we're actually still not home, whether you live in Israel, or you live in America, or you live in London, or you live in Africa, you live in all these different places, Baruch Hashem, that we have students that learn our Torah, Baruch Hashem, on a weekly basis and send us letters and emails and questions and a lot of different things that we try, Baruch Hashem, with Hashem's help always, to help each and every single soul as best as we can. We're still always reminded that we're not home. This is not salvation. This is not the Geulah. This is not the good times. And the way that we're reminded, unfortunately, is that there is no end. There's no end to the suffering. There's no end to the torture. There's no end to the murdering of our people, either by our own hands or by the Goyim. I'm sad to say that today I spent some time being very sad because I found out that another one of our people died. Aaron, I believe his last name is Nachum or Nachman. Aaron Nachman, I didn't know him personally. He's a religious Jew, part of Chabad in Boca Raton. And he also liked to fight martial arts. And Hashem Elachem, unfortunately, just a few hours ago, I found out that his soul was stolen from us. One of these Reshaim that couldn't control their evil inclinations decided to murder him just last night. To see and hear our people being murdered is always bad. To see and hear them die is always bad. When it happens just a couple of miles from your house, it hurts a little more. You see that Hashem is not happy. Just last week, I was notified that 3 young kids in New York all died within the same 36 hours out of drug overdose. Young kids, 16, 17, 18 years old. Aaron was only 25 years old. Hashem inkom et darav. Hashem will avenge his blood. So, first off, I want the shiur to go to Ilui Nishmatam, all of the people that we've mentioned, all of the people that we didn't mention. Be'ezrat Hashem, in the Beit Din of Shamayim, they'll have mercy on them. They'll welcome them with love. And B'ezrat Hashem, it will help each and every one of us to realize that we're not here and we're not promised tomorrow. When the students of Chazal asked them, Kvod Harav, why do you say that a Jew needs to do tshuva every day? Why do you have to say to do tshuva every day? And he explains it's because we're not promised tomorrow. So you have to do tshuva every day simply because you don't know if you're going to have tomorrow. So you want to make sure that before you leave this world, you've done tshuva. Now, when I posted this online to let the people know that anti-Semitism is not only alive and well, unfortunately, but it's getting closer and closer to home. Not just in Boca Raton, not just in Miami, not just in New York, not just in London, not just in Israel. It's literally everywhere. It's literally everywhere. We see our people murdered in cold blood, abused, insulted, beat up, persecuted. But we quickly sweep it under the carpet after a few internet posts, a few tweets, a few fundraisers, and we move on. It's time we ask ourselves, why? Why are all these things happening? Why are there so many people hate us? Is there proof that this is all anti-Semitism? Or maybe he just got into with the wrong crew. Maybe somebody mistook the house, tried to rob it, and he got in the way since he was a martial artist. He tried to fight it off, and maybe that happened. Maybe this, maybe that. When I posted it immediately, a couple of people asked, is there any proof that this is anti-Semitism? And I said, yes, there is proof it's anti-Semitism. It's called Torah. In Mount Sinai, Hashem Yitbarach met with Moshe Rabbeinu, and he gave him the entire Torah. He gave him the entire Torah, both the written Torah, the oral Torah, and he gave him all of the laws, all of the halachot. Halacha means it's law. Halacha means it's from Shamayim, from God. Halacha means it's indisputable. And one of the halachot, Moshe Sinai, that we got on Mount Sinai, is Esav soneh et Yaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. This is an halacha. This is a law of nature. This is a law of the world. It's not a possibility. It's not a likelihood. It's a fact. It's a reality. This does not necessarily mean that everyone that's a non-Jew hates Jews, because obviously, as you know, I have many non-Jew students that love Am Yisrael, love Hashem, love the Torah, sometimes more than many Jews. They're not Esav. Esav hates Yaakov. But the ones that don't hate Yaakov, the Rambam calls them Chasdei Umot HaOlam, the righteous amongst the nations. These are the Noahides that are the righteous amongst the nations. They love Torah, love mitzvot. Many of them want to convert to Judaism. Some of them can't, but still want to obey and observe the Torah completely. And these are the lovers of Am Yisrael, and these are going to have an amazing share of the world to come. The righteous amongst the nations are going to have an amazing share of the world to come. The Rambam says that the 7 Noahide laws are relatively logical. You don't need Torah to know that you shouldn't murder. You don't need Torah to know that you shouldn't steal. You don't need Torah to know that you shouldn't pray to some statue you bought from Chinatown. You don't need Torah for that. You just need a brain that Hashem gave you. That's all you need. On one end, this is the reason, since the 7 Noahide laws and all of the ethical laws, whether it be respecting your parents and other things that are just generally logical, On one end, this is the reason why a penalty for violating the 7 laws of Noah is much harsher than violating many of the mitzvot. If a Jew steals, the penalty, and he gets caught, the penalty is that he has to pay double. If he stole 100, he has to pay 200. Unless he didn't get caught and he decided to return it, then he just returns what he stole. But if he stole and then he got caught, he has to pay double. That's the halakha. On the other hand, a non-Jew that stole 100 or 200 or 200 million, it's the same thing. According to the Torah, it's death penalty. It's heavenly death penalty. Now, obviously, we don't kill anyone today for stealing or really for most things. But the point being is that the punishment is much harder, much harsher for a Noahide than it is for a Jew. Number one, because they have much less responsibility, much less mitzvot. And two, since they're all relatively simple, logical mitzvot, to not do them, it's really a war against God. God really takes it personal. Yeah, I gave you just a little bit, and you do against that, just a few things I gave you? So that's one end. The second thing about Noahides that we need to know, and they need to know themselves, is the Rambam says that not everybody that keeps these 7 Noahide laws is going to have a olam haba. Not all of them. Why? If you keep the 7 Noahide laws because God said it, then you are considered amongst the righteous amongst the nations. You're considered amongst the chazdei umot ha'olam. You're wise, you're righteous, you have olam haba, you're amazing. On the other hand, if you just keep those mitzvot because you're a nice guy, you don't steal because you're a millionaire already, you don't need to steal. You don't kill because it's not allowed, you're scared of being arrested. You don't worship an idol because, it's silly. And so on and so forth. You're just keeping it because it's logical. The Rambam says not only do they not get olam haba, but they're actually considered the tipshim amongst the nations, the fools amongst the nations. Why the fools? Because they're doing all the work without getting paid. You're already doing all the work. Why not at least get paid for it? The reward of olam haba, of eternity. So this is why some of the Rabbanim around the world are trying to get the non-Jews to do tshuva in their own way and get closer to Hashem and do what's right in the eyes of Hashem for Hashem, not because it's logical. But back to our issue of us being reminded that we're surrounded by the enemy in exile. Sometimes the enemy is within, and sometimes the enemy is around us. We're reminded by these murders. We're reminded by just all the difficulty that's around us. Even the sinners amongst our own people that wanted to celebrate this goal nefesh, this disgusting gay parade. They wanted to celebrate the gay parade in Chicago, and 3 of them went to Chicago to celebrate the gay parade, and they brought Israeli flags that had the rainbow on it, the gay rainbow on it, and they got thrown out because even the homosexuals don't want to accept Jews. This is just a reminder. We're not like you. We're not supposed to be like you. You're chosen, you're not. This is a reminder for those 3 people. You're not supposed to be like them. You're chosen. You're Hashem's princes. You're not supposed to be talking about your sexuality and your desires that you can't control and celebrate a war against God. You're not supposed to do that. And even they themselves are telling you you're not supposed to do that. Very similar to the story I told you one time that a friend of mine told me. He says he got arrested one time. He was a very, very established, successful businessman. He said he got arrested for something stupid one time. Silly, ridiculous. He got into a fight with his girlfriend or something. She called the cops. And the cops in New York, they don't They don't think twice about arresting. They see someone. If he's alive, if he's moving, he gets arrested. Why? Doesn't make a difference. We'll figure it out in court. So he gets arrested for nothing. They don't even know. They didn't even give him anything. Just arrested him. Sits in jail, I think, almost 28 hours, 29 hours, a long time. And he says that, I realized that I have a problem when I was sitting amongst all of these gangsters. You know, they put you in, there's two cells. There's central bookings, and then there's an actual cell. So in a central booking place, there's like you're in one cell with 30, 40 other, you know, amazing people. And everybody smells good, and everybody's established and sophisticated scholars. So he says, I'm surrounded by these scholars, and a couple of these scholars that have scars on their faces, like they just came out of the movie Scarface, they look at me and say, so, what are you in for? Because I'm the only guy wearing a suit. Everybody else is wearing a little different clothes. Different clothes. Not exactly Wall Street. I ask him, what are you in for? He said, I got into a fight with my girlfriend. And they all look at me funny, he says. And then they asked me, what do you mean you got into a fight with your girl? You killed her? He says, no, I didn't kill her. You beat her up? You broke a few bones? No, I just yelled at her. And she got really upset. She called the cops. I said, wait a minute. You're here with us? What do you wear a suit? Where you work somewhere? You look like it's not a $5 suit. What do you do? Oh, I work on Wall Street. And I have this, and I have that, and I have this. And he says, well, I'm telling him the story. I'm starting to feel worse about myself. Because they're all looking at me funny. In the beginning, I thought maybe they're trying to rob me, but I don't have any money on me. So I said, okay, Baruch Hashem. But they're still looking at me funny. He said, at the end of the story, and I told them what I have and what I built and what I did and what I did. And these two scar-faced looking guys say to me, what's wrong with you? What are you doing here? Why are you here? And they keep asking me questions that I didn't understand. I'm like, what do you mean, I just told you for the last 25 minutes. The girlfriend, she scratched me in the face, and then I yelled at her, and she called the cops. He goes, no, we heard this story, but why are you here? Why are you here with us? We are criminals. We sell drugs. He murdered a couple of people. This guy is one of the biggest drug dealers in Queens. This guy is a thief. This guy is a gangster. This guy's this. Everyone's got a sheet, it's a rap sheet the size of the Megillah. We are here every weekend. What are you doing here? You don't belong here. You have the whole world in your hand. You have a business. You have a real life. You went to college. You did this. You did that. And you're here with us. What's wrong with you? Don't you understand? You're not supposed to be here. And he says to me, I wanted to die. When the gangster explained to me how miserable my life really is and how much of a lie I'm living, I wanted to die. Because he was right. I was given an opportunity to be different, but yet I acted the same as the rest. Am Israel is called the chosen people. By who? By the one and only above. But yet, there's a price to pay to be amongst the chosen people. In this week's parasha, Parashat Balak, we are reminded of this price. In the beginning of the parasha, it says, Vayar Balak ben Tzipor et kol asher asa Yisrael ha'emori. Balak, the son of Tzipor, saw all that Israel had done to the Amorite. He heard about the war. He heard about how these people, they used to be slaves, but somehow, miraculously took over the biggest nation in the world, the strongest army in the world, and for the first and last time in history, the slave became the master. Never before and never again did a slave ever become a master. But here an entire nation that was servants for 210 years and had 86 years of hardcore slavery that we cannot even imagine, somehow, some way, miraculously became the master, to the point where the former master begged them to leave by giving them money. Begged them to leave by making each and every single one of them rich. This is why Am Yisrael left Mitzrayim rich. Each and every single person was a millionaire. But how do you go from being a slave with broken bones, missing eyes, missing limbs, weak from the slavery and lack of food and nutrition, to now you are a powerful army that just took down the Amorites? And Balak says, I'm worried. I'm worried about this nation because their power is not natural. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that a slave is somehow going to become the master. It doesn't make sense that a slave without weapons somehow won wars. It doesn't make sense. There has to be something. And he asks and he asks and he investigates and he finds out that there's a person by the name of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is connected to the one above, which Balak also believes in. Only difference is when Moshe Rabbeinu says something, the one above makes it happen. He says he has the power of speech. I need to find someone who also has the power of speech. Ze keneged ze bara Elokim. There has to be something else to fight it. And he finds the wicked Rasha Merusha prophet Bilam. He says Bilam also is a prophet. Go find him and tell him to come help us. Tell him we need him to curse this nation before they come and they beat us too. So here we see that Balak, although he's not threatened by the Jews, they're not coming his way, they're not bothering him, they're not attacking him, they're not disturbing him, they're not even sending him tweets on the internet. Nothing. They're not writing about him. They're not talking about him. Nothing. But he's bothered by the existence of Am Yisrael and their success. And he says, this I must end. And I will use everything I possibly can to stop it. So when you go to Bilam, tell him I'll pay him whatever price he wants. Name it. This is one of the many places we see that Esav sonnet Yaakov. Esav hates Yaakov. Not because it makes sense. Not because it's logical. But it's instilled within them because this is the test. So Am Yisrael does not need to wait for the investigative reports, the journalists, and all of the media out there to come out with proofs of why these murder, Hashem Yerachem, that happened last night happened. We don't need proofs. We have proofs. It's called Halacha. Hashem instilled into our haters to hate us. Why? To protect us. He needs the Goyim to hate us because he needs to protect us. Because unfortunately, despite the fact that the Goyim hate us, we still try to be like them. We still try to assimilate with them. We still try to be next to them, emulate them, celebrate with them. Even holidays like 4th of July, that has absolutely nothing to do with Judaism. Unfortunately, the vast majority of American Jews are celebrating today, and they are not in a Shiur Torah like you. They're not. They're celebrating a day, an Independence Day, to a country that does not belong to them. To a place where the prophet Jeremiah says, this will be Edom, where Hashem is going to take us out of here, like he took us out of Egypt. This does not mean that we're ungrateful. It's just a reality. So now, when most Jews are celebrating with the Goyim, generation after generation, one holiday becomes another. 4th of July becomes Thanksgiving, and Thanksgiving eventually becomes Easter or Christmas. And unfortunately, many of the Jews have gone so far from Hashem Yitbarach that they feel 100% comfortable having a Hanukkah tree, thinking that this is just a nice thing to have. When I first heard about it, I was around 11 years old. My American Jewish friend told me, "Oh yeah, I'm so excited. Hanukkah is coming." In Israel, we weren't really so excited about Hanukkah coming, other than the fact that we're going to eat some sufganiyot, the little donuts. But I wouldn't call it excited. It's one time a year we have these donuts. It's delicious, it's great, but it's not exactly the highlight of my life. So I asked him, "Why are you so excited?" "Oh, we get so many presents around the tree." And I said, "Excuse me, what do you mean you get presents?" I didn't ask about the tree first. I asked the presents first, just to see what the secret is. I was 11. So what do you mean you get presents? He goes, "We get presents. We get a present for every day." I said, "I get a sufganiya every day." The whole concept of presents on Hanukkah was not necessarily an Israeli thing. It's an American thing. Similar to the Goyim, because they get presents on Christmas. The only thing I could hear about from the sages, Sipurei Tzadikim, is what they give their kids is maybe some chocolate on Hanukkah, but there's no stories of presents, at least not that I heard of. Maybe there is, but I never heard it. So I found out about these 8 presents in America. I said, "Wow, your parents must be rich." He goes, "Yes, our tree is amazing. It's all white." And I said, "Okay, yeah, back to this tree thing. What do you mean you have a tree?" He goes, "Yeah, we have a Hanukkah tree." I said, "What's a Hanukkah tree?" I'm 11 years old. I've celebrated Hanukkah my whole life. I remember about 5 or 6 years of it. I never saw a tree. What is this Hanukkah tree? And he described to me something that I saw in the mall. Only there they called it a Christmas tree. And although it was disturbing, I quickly forgot and went back to the business of how to figure out how to convince my parents to get me some presents. But years would pass, and eventually I would learn from the Torah that not only is this Hanukkah tree not part of our tradition, not part of our Masoret, but it also is against the Torah to such an extent that it's the equivalent of idolatry. It's 100% idol worship. It's mentioned in the Torah several times, one of them by the prophet Jeremiah, one of them by Hashem Yitbarach himself, saying, when you get to the land, cut down the Asher trees. Cut down these trees. So Yeshua ben Nun asked, what do these trees do? What, they stole? They went with a different tree. They violated. What do these trees do? It's a tree. It stays there. He says, no, someone worshipped this tree. The nations that lived here before, they worshipped the tree. So how is this the tree's fault? What, the tree told me, come here, I'm good. This is a good spot, come worship me. What did the tree do? It's irrelevant. Anything that was ever used for idolatry has lost its right to exist. It's called to'avat Hashem. It's called disgusting to Hashem. We are not allowed to benefit from idolatry in any way, shape, or form, which is also the reason and the argument we add to the whole issue of wigs today that come from natural hair. Unfortunately, there's not one human being on earth that can look me in the face and swear on their olam haba that they know for sure, 100%, that the wig they bought from the store did not come from idolatry. Because the reality of it is that even if one hair, you have thousands amongst tens of thousands of hairs in every wig. It's a full head of hair. If one hair, one, not all of them, if 99.9% of the hairs come from some Russian jail, which is unethical to begin with, but it's not idolatry, comes from some Russian jail, But when I went to the factory, first in China, then it went to Italy, possibly stopped in France, then went back to London, eventually arrived in the United States. By the time it got there, all the custom-made jobs they made to fit your head, one hair sneaked up in there that came from the temples in India. Your entire head of hair is now 100% idol worship. Can anyone in the world put their olam haba on the line and look at themselves in the face? Who am I? Look at themselves in the face and say, I know this is not from idolatry. I know that not even one hair in this wig is not idolatry. Can? No one can. That's the problem. So why do people take such big risks with their olam haba? Because we are losing the battle. We are losing the battle of Gog and Magog that's within us. The battle amongst the nations and them hating us has always been and will always be. Hashem instilled hatred amongst the nations for us because He needs to protect us. We try to be like them even when they hate us. Imagine what we would do if they loved us. There would be no us. According to recent statistics, in many parts of the United States, there are over 75% assimilations. Over 75% of Jews are marrying goyim. Many of the people that come to me asking for help come from intermarriage. Either their parents were intermarried or they themselves are intermarried and they finally realized, I have a problem. My wife is not Jewish, my husband is not Jewish, we have 2 kids, we have 3 kids, we're not just boyfriend, girlfriend. I can't just leave. I love him, I love her, I have something, what do we do? She believes, he believes, what do we do? Some are legitimate and some are fake. There's a family that Baruch Hashem and Be'ezrat Hashem I've been working with over the past year. And Be'ezrat Hashem, we will take them, the whole family, to the Bet Din in just the next few weeks. These people should have already been converted many years ago, but obviously they had their own tikkun and tests, and they withstood the test. And Be'ezrat Hashem, they'll join Am Yisrael very soon. On the other hand, at the same time, another few came to me. One of them, I think maybe he will complete his conversion in about 50 years. Maybe in 50 years. The other one, I just don't think they'll ever complete it. They have 0 chance. And the other one is still unsure. How could it be that one comes after a year, finished, another one 50 years? How could there be such differences? Didn't they all say the same story? Didn't they all say, we want your Torah, we want your God, we want your people? Didn't they all say the same story? Yes, they all say the same story. But the story is nice. We don't convert because of stories. We convert because of actions. Conversion has 2 parts. 1, learn the material. Learn how to be a Jew. It's very basic needs to learn. You learn the basic halachot of all the mitzvot before you eat, the prayers, the holidays, Shabbat. Anyone that's truly dedicated can learn all of these things within a matter of a couple of months at most. They're truly dedicated, a couple of months. It's not rocket science. Basic. You're not expected to be Moshe Rabbeinu or Rav Eliashiv. Expected to just know basics of how to be a Jew day to day. A couple of months, 2, 3, 4, 5 months. You're finished. That's the easy part. The hard part is making the life changes. It says be modest, you have to be modest. It says pray, you need to pray. It says have emunah, you have to have emunah. It says you have to have yirah, you have to have yirah. It says you have to read, you have to read. It says you have to be a Jew, you have to live like a Jew, you have to keep Shabbat, you have to make certain sacrifices, you have to change jobs, you have to change this, you have to change that, Shem Echem. All types of tests. You have to do it. That's the tough part. Everyone talks a big game. Everyone knows about Moshe Rabbeinu. Everyone knows the story. Everyone watched the lectures. Easy. The information is easy. It's available. It's free. The hard part is doing it. And for all of those that are complaining about how they're having such difficulties in conversion, you should be reminded that the Jews have been fighting for existence, for the right to live, for over 3,300 years. Pogroms, inquisitions, holocausts have become a very much part of our life. We've been fighting to exist. For you to say that you're going to just join this special people just because you know a few laws and just because you started reading about Moshe Rabbeinu a couple of years ago and you just want to walk in and be part of the chosen people and think Hashem Yitbarach is going to make your test that much easier than the rest of his people, you haven't learned enough Torah. It's not that easy to be a Jew. But then again, we are reminded when we see so many converts that are making sacrifices beyond our imagination. One of the most invigorating experiences that I've had since doing tshuva and helping people do tshuva is seeing the lives of converts, other converts, and the sacrifices they're willing to make. It's invigorating. It's amazing. It helps me do tshuva. The sacrifices they're willing to make, some of them, I wouldn't be able to do. And I don't think anybody else other than them would be able to do. They got the test because they can pass it. Baruch Hashem, I didn't get the test. I got something else instead. Everyone gets their own test. But then when the natural-born Jews among us takes things for granted and says, I'll be a Jew sometimes. I'll come to a lecture except if it's on 4th of July. I'll come to the shul except not on Shabbat. I'll pray, but only once a day. I'll learn, but only when you're teaching. Not if anyone else is teaching, not if it's from a book, not if it's with a group of people. A lot of people want one-on-one. Every day there's at least 3 to 4 requests. I want one-on-one teaching. I said, me too. If I taught every single person that wants one-on-one teaching, I wouldn't have enough time to even breathe, let alone to teach. Everyone wants custom-made. Want to walk in, privileged. So Shem reminds us, you're not like the others. If you don't separate from them, I'll separate you. If you don't separate from them, I'll separate you. But when I separate you, it's going to hurt. It's going to hurt a lot. You're not supposed to do those things. You're not supposed to be among them. When I separate you, it's going to hurt. He reminds us in the Torah several times. Balak is telling us here, I hate you. Bilam, who believed and spoke to God, says, I hate you. I hate you because I'm supposed to. It's my job to hate you. Because if I didn't hate you, you'd want to marry me. You'd want to celebrate with me. You'd want to be me. That's not your job. You're not supposed to be me. It's supposed to be you. It's supposed to be a light to the nations to bring everyone else up, not go down to their level. Which brings us to the current disaster in the world.
I've heard enough. New arrival screams echoing through the hallway to know that this ain't good. Once they pass them through the infierno, they don't come back. It's enough to make you go crazy.
Do not think we fear you, Spirit. We know your power is born of evil. This is your last night in the land of the living. You understand me, malevolent demon?
cure you seek. Go within. Just know, once you've crossed that threshold, there is only one way out.
There was a rich family that lived here called the Hetheringtons, and unfortunately, their daughter passed away of a heart attack inside the house. Basically, they were so devastated that they reached out to people claiming to be psychic mediums. They actually weren't psychic mediums. They opened up a total of 11 portals inside this house and invited spirits and entities from all different kinds of dimensions.
Well, I think there are certain pieces of evidence that there is an afterlife.
Resurrection of the dead is affirmed pretty clearly in the Talmud and the Midrash.
To be honest with you, to give this lecture is a nightmare. If it was up to me, I wouldn't do it. There's going to be some graphic details.
This place is a maze.
The person after death went to a place called Sheol.
This is by far the largest near-death experience study that has ever been conducted.
People go to a place and they experience weird things. And sometimes they actually will see a character of some type. Well, where did that come from?
I don't know why that one chain is swinging back there.
They may describe feeling profoundly peaceful, seeing a bright, warm, welcoming light. Some people describe watching doctors and nurses working on them with incredible accuracy.
Next thing I knew, I was above my body watching the operation.
How long did you feel like you were gone?
I went to a place of timelessness. And so what that means, it could have been a second, could have been 5 minutes. I don't know.
Can you imagine waking up from your sleep and not being able to move?
As I'm lying there, I realized that there's an evil presence next to me.
Do you believe that angels, demons exist?
Holy shit, dude, get out of here! Oh my god, dude!
Strange things keep happening. Bizarre nightmares, as if I'm on fire.
Whoa, what the hell is this? Man, I've got bad chest pain.
Satan's Hollow is what it's called, the portal to hell.
Some people calling it an eye of fire, while others said it looked like the portal to hell opening up.
And the next thing I know, I was outside of my body, looking at my body.
What I'm going to do is called claromancy, the art of throwing lots or throwing bones.
2,000 years of experience, passed down, recorded, of how demons work.
God has them all on a leash, and he lets the leash go enough to let them tempt us, because that's what makes us spiritually stronger.
I'm trying to be as graphic as possible so you understand what we're talking about.
It's your ticket to reality. It's your ticket to freedom. It's your ticket to immortality.
Is there an afterlife? Is there a
It's
God?
the type of information that can keep you away from the Yetzirah.
What happens to us after we die?